Musa. this,
We'll
this is going to get rough, folks.
try to liven up the mood.
Well, we'll see after this. Let's do what we do, Lakeena. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidK80. Once again, at SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can catch Second City Sports on YouTube at War Media every Monday and Friday. Once again, you can catch Second City Sports right here on YouTube at War Media, WARR Media on YouTube every Monday and Friday. And you can still catch our podcast every Tuesday and Saturday on War on Anchor. Once again, our podcast you can still catch on Tuesdays and Saturdays at War on Anchor, which kicks you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and that iHeartRadio app on all podcast platforms. Make sure you type in the search engine box WARR on Anchor. And you go to our website, weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yeah, so we are unapologetically fun. Lakeena, I'm glad you are here with me today, as always, obviously. But let's see if we can try to get through this together as we will open up with Chicago Bulls basketball. The Bulls went 0 for the weekend. We cannot make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. They went 0 for the weekend. Remember on our last show, Lakeena, and thanks to Cheryl Ray Stout for joining us from WBEZ 91.5 FM here in Chicago. As we talked with her about the Chicago Bulls, Lakeena, we were hyped up going into the weekend. We talked about their schedule. They can make some moves in terms of their playoff positioning. Maybe, just maybe, they can get out of that 7-10 tournament. Reality slapped us in the face, and they said, "Not so fast." Pardon my Pat Foley, Blackhawks hockey announcer. I'm going to try to avoid the Hawks, but we'll see about that. Even though I am wearing that T-shirt today, if you're watching us on YouTube. But anyway, the Bulls dropped the two road games between the Atlanta Hawks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. They lost to the Timberwolves 121-117 on Sunday. Last Friday, they lose by 12 to the injured Atlanta Hawks 120-108. Lakeena, let's break down Friday's game. Zach LaVine had 50 points, 39 of them in the first half. Trae Young led the Hawks with 42 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. Lakeena, as we said all year on this program, even though the Bulls have a better roster after the trade deadline, you need to finish off your opponents. You need to make key plays down the stretch. You need to learn how to close out games, period. End of story. We know that the Bulls are not as good as Milwaukee, Boston, even though they struggle. We'll get to them later on the show. You're not as good as the top teams in the Eastern Conference. After Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn, this Eastern Conference is up for grabs. And the Bulls have blew a golden opportunity, in my opinion.
Well, I mean,
and looking at Friday's game, you had the Hawks on the ropes. You cannot finish them. I know the Hawks have played better. We said that in the last few weeks under interim head coach Nate McMillan. But you cannot finish off the Hawks. You had them on the ropes on the road. The Hawks are injured, and you crap down your pants like that. That makes no sense. You could take it on from there.
I mean, look, I said this to various folks during when all this sort of transpired. I mean, the Hawks secondary unit actually was able to kind of take advantage of it. Gallinardi had 20 points off the bench, and of course, Trae Young had 42, and Capella had 22, made some big defensive stops late. I think, look, the problem is that the secondary guys for the Bulls have not stepped up. I guess, look, I get, Garrett Temple, who's hurt right now. I guess he's sort of like the guy, the sort of like that veteran guy, that veteran voice, the facilitator in that. So unfortunately, Sato had 0 points.
Mm-hmm.
Laurie only had 5 points, and I think those are the type of guys need to step up. Zach, as great as he did, I think he said to himself, he'd rather that they would have had the win than rather have the 50. I mean, look, Vooch did what
Mm-hmm.
he usually does, 25 and 10. But P. Will has kind of hit the rookie wall. Thaddeus Young is inconsistent. I mean, unfortunately, this is who they are right now. Yes, the top of the roster is better, but again, some of those middle of the road guys is still, they're still not producing consistently. So, I mean, look, unfortunately, the good news for the Bulls, if you can find some, is that the rest of the East is, right there. They're right there, like kind of like in that same level as them. So, still kind of meandering in that play-in spot. But again, I mean, these are the kind of games that you just can't, you can't get away from. Now, as for Sunday's game, against the T-Wolves, I mean, I know, look, yes, the T-Wolves only have 14 wins. Yes, they're bad, but look, there was a lot of emotions in that game. They were honoring Karl-Anthony Towns' mom, who passed away from COVID. His dad was there, who himself had survived COVID. He had, he had COVID himself. And also, too, remember, A-Rod might be their new owner. So there's still a little bit of pep and stuff there. I mean, Rubio, who struggles from three, was all of a sudden, hitting those threes like Steph Curry. So, look, unfortunately, I mean, no disrespect. I mean, we know he's been around a while, but, but again, I mean, he wasn't shooting well from three until then. So, look, as far as, the Sunday's game, Vucevic had 18, but didn't have a lot of rebounds. In the single days, yes, Troy Brown Jr. had 15 off the bench. Thies had 13. Thies, I should say, had 13 off the bench. P. Will has had his struggles. I mean, look, people need to remember he's a 19-year-old rookie. This is sort of like the longest he's played. He's not playing. He's used to playing this kind of schedule, so you got to give him a little bit of leeway there. And look, I mean, I kind of feel like I think people need to sort of like. Look, Jared Vanderbilt, a guy who's been around a while, he had 27 off the bench. So look, I think that these weird things have happened in the NBA, especially in the long season. We'll see what happens. Of course, we'll talk about the Grizzlies game on Friday, but look, this is sort of the type of thing where you kind of just, burn the tape and just start over. And look, I think at this point, again, this team is who they are. And, I don't know what else to say about that.
Going back to Friday's game against Atlanta, Lakeena, you actually shot the ball pretty well. You shot the ball at 39% from three, or 47% overall, and you shot 92% from the free throw line. My problem is this: it was a miracle that you put up 108 points, thanks to Zach LaVine's 50 points, and Nikolai Vujicic's 25. But the next highest guys were Troy Brown Jr. with 5. Like you said, Lakeena, he had a better game on Sunday. We'll break that down in just a moment. But Lauri Markkanen, I was very disappointed in him. Only 5 points in 27 minutes of action. That's not going to get it done. Thomas Satoransky, as we said before, Lakeena, he's the point guard for this team going forward for the rest of the season. He fits better than Kobe White. He had 10 assists, but 0 points. That's just not going to get it done.
Well, like you said, but unfortunately, look, I see people are saying that, look, Donovan should just, his rotation is terrible. Okay, well, then, look, you want to criticize his rotation, fine. But again, you're going to get more Kobe, more Laurie, and more Denzel. Sorry, Matt Peck. You're going to have Brown Jr., they're, and Thies, they're good. But again, you're going to see more of the other three too. So I think people need to kind of like, look and see, like, I don't want to, channel, the late great Denny Green, but the Bulls are who you thought they were. Yes, they've improved the top level of the roster, but again, this is sort of like what we're stuck with for the rest of the season.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Cindy Brown as we talk about the Chicago Bulls and their 0-for-2 for the weekend. Lakeena, let's stay on Sunday's loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves 121-117. As you mentioned, Karl-Anthony Towns was playing with heavy emotion. He scored 27 points, grabbed 12 rebounds, and he was 2 assists shy of a triple-double. It was a nice moment after the game. Him and Zach LaVine, they were former teammates. They hugged each other. They hugged Carl's father. Like you said, he survived COVID. It was a cool moment at the end. But taking a look at the box score, Zach LaVine bounced back with a 30.7 rebound, 6 assist game. Vujicic, I did get a chance to watch the last quarter of that game, Lakeena. The Bulls were down most of that game. I give them credit for trying to come back, but they dug themselves too big a hole to start the game, and they almost pulled it off. But like I said before, this team, if you want to be a playoff team, you have to take that next step. And that next step is playing consistently for 48 minutes, and you definitely did not see that on Sunday.
Well, and also, T, you got to think that the schedule is starting to get to them. I think, look, they've played a lot of back-to-back. This is their ninth game in 10 days. They don't have any for like the rest of the month. They have like, I don't want to say back to backs because they do have a couple of back to backs. They do only have like maybe one day off in between some of the two games. So you got to think, look, that's gonna wear and tear you as a team. So you got to think that mentally and physically. And look, I'm not making excuses in that front, but again, they're playing a very condensed schedule. And look, young or not, I mean, look, it's gonna wear you out. And I think, look, we saw what happened. And then, like I said, P. Will, he's hitting that rookie wall. Laurie's not consistent enough. Neither is Kobe.
Only 8 points on Sunday. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and only 2 rebounds, too. I mean, that's not going to get it done. And I think, look, I think that this team is who they are. And, look, like I said a few minutes ago, the good news is that most of the teams in the East are not that good either. So, it's sort of like you're still sort of meandering in that play-in. And I know some folks say, maybe they should just go ahead and tank. But again, look, the East is so bad. They're not going to, even if they could tank, they still probably be like in 9th or 10th place. So I think people need to kind of adjust their expectations.
I couldn't agree with you more. And looking at the rest of this box score from the Minnesota loss on Sunday, Thaddeus Young, 9 points. You mentioned Patrick Williams, the rookie, 0 points. Saturansky actually stepped up scoring rise with 10 points, even though he added 6 assists. Troy Brown Jr. continues to impress, 15 points. Shout out to AK and Mark Eversley for finding a gem in that trade with Daniel Tice from Boston. And speaking of Daniel Tice, he got fouled on the Carl Anthony. No, it wasn't a Carl Anthony Towns free throw. It was a Zach LaVine missed free throw toward the end of the game. He got mugged underneath it. And I heard Stacey Keene on the NBC Sports Chicago broadcast called it out and said that he was mugged underneath. I know in the last minute or so, the refs usually swallow the whistles and let the players play. But if there's an obvious foul, call it. Now, is that the reason why the Bulls lost the game? No. But that was an obvious foul there. The Bulls put themselves in that situation that they shouldn't have put themselves in. They should have been able to beat this Timberwolves team, but they got to turn around quickly if they want to make the playoffs. Speaking of Daniel Tice, he did play 29 minutes, grabbed 7 rebounds, and scored a total of 13 points. I'm with you, Lakeena. We said this as soon as that trade happened, that fans are going to like Daniel Tice. You saw what he did with Boston in the last few years. He was a young prodigy in the San Antonio Spurs system way back in the day. This guy brings you energy. He brings hustle. He brings intensity. He brings the defensive presence in the interior, which is something that the Bulls have lacked all season long.
Look, he's going to be like I said, he's going to be a cold figure here in Chicago, and also Troy Brown too. If they keep him next year, I think he's sort of like that guy. He's sort of very similar. He kind of has that that tenacity that'll fight for for rebounds, and can shoot the three if when he needs to. He was 3 for 3 on Sunday. So I think those are 2 role players that I think it's great to have. I'm glad they're on the team now. Hopefully, I know. No, Tice is under contract, but I think Brown Jr. I think is his contract is up. So I would say, I'm sure AK and Everest are going to try to get him, to try to keep him as long as they could. I'm sure they'll get a good.
If he keeps this up, they should resign him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but like I said, I mean, Laurie, P. Will's going to have to kind of get over that wall. Hopefully Garrett Temple will be back soon. I mean, look, who would have thought of me, the Garrett Temple, who's sort of like, that's why people say, when the Bulls sign him, he is that veteran guy, that can kind of, be in everybody's ear that they'll listen to. So I think that's a thing that's being missed right now. I know it sounds sort of weird that Garrett Temple, kind of a journeyman, but you see why he was very popular with his teammates.
And take a look at the Bulls schedule for this week. Of course, you're listening to this podcast on Tuesday, which is today. The road game at Memphis, which was a makeup game from the first half of the season, would already been played. Of course, Wednesday the Bulls will host Orlando in the first of straight games at the United Center. Wednesday they'll face the Orlando Magic. Friday they'll face Memphis to wrap up the season series with the Grizz. And then of course Saturday the back-to-back, as you talked about, Lakeena, they'll face the Cleveland Cavaliers. And of course, next Monday, they'll go to Boston to face the Celtics. Lakeena, the road to the playoffs, it gets tougher for the Bulls, but the schedule is still in their favor. And looking at the rest of the schedule for this month, it ends on a tough note, but on the surface, you got to take care of business against lesser opponents.
And hopefully they'll be able to do that. I think that those, Memphis Memphis have had their struggles lately, so it's sort of kind of similar to what the Bulls have been going through. So you got to think that that's kind of be an even matchup there. Orlando, they're up and down. I'm sure this is like, Wendell Carter Jr.'s. I'm sure he's going to be his revenge game, but also it could be Vooch's revenge game against the Magic. So I mean, that should be a interesting one there. Cleveland, you want to get revenge on them from the last meeting that you had where they beat you pretty easily. And also too,
right before the trade deadline.
Yeah, so there are definitely some winnable games here, but you got to win them, especially if you want to try to make the playoffs and make that play in. You're going to have to win these kinds of games. I mean, times become of essence. You only got about 6 weeks left in the season, maybe give or take. So before those play-in games, so they better kind of figure it out quick.
Yeah, if you had Coach Billy Donovan, whatever combination works as far as your alignments are concerned, work them, because this is the prime time. This is the best time of the season. The time is now if you want to take the next step and make a playoff berth here. So whatever works, you go with it. Whoever doesn't like it, get off the ship. SHIP for those of you scoring at home, but they're not cuss. But whatever works from this point as far as lineup combinations are concerned, whoever is giving the most effort, like the Bulls have been doing all year, whoever's giving the most effort deserves the most playing time. If you're not doing your job, you sit on the bench next to me, young man.
All right, exactly. So let's go to Diamond for a second here. Sid, you listen to Second City Sports along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. Sid, where to start?
Let's start with the Northsiders first.
Okay. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, it's been the story for the last almost 2 or 3 years with the Cubs. Lack of hitting. And they lose a series against the Pirates over the weekend. And look, I mean, you thought that maybe we talked about it on Friday. You thought that maybe they could at least sweep, if not sweep, at least win the series. That did not happen. Unfortunately, they're 4-5 as of this recording. Just a lot of issues with this. Just a lot of hitting issues, especially also pitching issues too. Sid, what's your take?
I have a stat for you, and I saw this on television on Sunday night. The Cubs 1 for 23. What does that statistic represent?
Runners in scoring position.
Ding, 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 ding. That's why we love you, Lakeena. And they left 16 men on base during that entire 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. As we talked about this before, this has been a problem for the last 2 or 3 years for the Chicago Cubs. Now, I know offense in baseball comes in spurts. We understand that. We know good pitching comes in spurts. We understand it. But for the Cubs, it's been a problem for the last 3 years. And you can't get out of your own way. I don't know what to tell you outside. Of course, the obvious answer is be more consistent, hit the ball better, take pitches, try to create scoring opportunities, hit and run. I've been saying that too, but it seems that no one is paying attention over there on the north side. And the shame of it all is that their starting pitcher, which hasn't really been that bad outside of Trevor Williams' performance on Sunday, the starting pitching hasn't really been that bad. Yes, Kyle Hendricks had a stinker on opening day, okay? But outside of those 2 performances I just mentioned, their starting pitching hasn't been that bad. Actually, the bullpen's been okay. Yeah. Better than okay if you want to make it keep it a stack, as the kids would say. The bullpen's actually been okay. Yeah. But it's just that offense cannot seem to pick up the lack. Pick up the. I'm not want to say struggling starting pitcher, but the offense just cannot
Just
pick
sort of,
up
just
its
sort,
weight.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like maybe like to kind of like help out the starting pitching,
Hmm.
not waste because Arrieta his last start against the Pirates was actually pretty good,
Yeah.
and
Who would have thought he'd be 2-0 right now?
yeah, I mean, we said this earlier. If we could be, just a fraction of who he was those 2 years he was here and was right there for the Cy Young, I think. Look, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But again, look, we talked about it with Cheryl Ray. We love her. On
Mm-hmm.
Friday. Look, I don't want to have to throw. I'm sure Cubs fans don't want to have to throw a parade. Our buddy Jason, who's the big Cubs fan that he is, will not have to. Doesn't want to have to throw a parade every time that the Cubs get more than 4 hits. I mean, that's absurd. And look, I mean, they had 5 hits. Again, Contreras was out in a very controversial play. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Buxiami. Happy belated birthday. He just turned 51. But I mean, over the weekend. But I mean, the rules in baseball. We'll talk about this, in another episode. Sid, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
terrible. And look, who knows what would have happened had that run had counted, that Contreras scored. But again, there's no consistency, and unfortunately, this has been a problem. And like you said, Sid, the pitching hasn't actually been too bad. I mean, yeah, Williams had a tough outing against his former team, and some of the Alec Mills actually didn't have a too bad of an outing, but again, it was just
Mm-hmm.
the lack of hitting. They didn't pick up the slack for him. So again, look, like I said, I'm not gonna give up on the Cubs yet. We're only a little over a week into the season, but this is sort of like a part of their schedule where the Cubs should be able to kind of, have a pretty better record than they are having right now.
Yeah, I believe it's a 4-game series. Correct me if I'm wrong with Lakeena, but they have a big 4-game series at Milwaukee,
You
and then
do?
they'll come. Yeah, and they. Oh, thank you. and they'll come home for 3 games against the Atlanta Braves. We'll get to them in just a minute. There's some controversy involving them in the Philadelphia Phillies for Sunday
Mm.
night. The Cubs will host the Braves this coming weekend. And of course, they have a Sunday nighter on ESPN that's included in that schedule as well. But looking at the statistics, we played about a week or so, Lakeena, about 9-10 days worth of baseball. And Javi Baez, I know some people are questioning him right now. I know he's due for a contract extension, but he's leading the Cubs in all offensive categories with a 242 batting average, 3 home runs, and 6 RBI, and
Mm-hmm.
he has a total of 8 hits for the season. I wonder if he's going to pick it up and perhaps get close to that MVP type level in 2018. I don't want to throw in the towel for him just yet, but I'm gonna give him another few weeks to do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's sort of, it was sort of like last season, right? He kind of had his ebbs and flows, and, he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been able, hasn't had a good start this year. I'm hoping he picks it up. I mean, look, it's still very early. You're playing a full 162. Everybody's,
Mm-hmm.
trying to, getting back into the groove of things. And I just think that at this point, I think you just kind of have to like give the guy a little bit of leeway. You hope that, these guys like Baez have not peaked too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And this is who he really is. But again, he's still young enough to say maybe he'll figure it out eventually. But eventually is sort of coming up quick. So hopefully, like you said, Sid, and I mean, they got 3 games, at Milwaukee, got 3 games against Atlanta. They've had their struggles early on. So have the Mets, who will have 3, early next week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll see how this team looks. I mean, but I can understand why Cubs fans are kind of starting to get a little upset. I mean, you spent this, you got, Jack Peterson. He hasn't been, hitting very
Mm-hmm.
well to start the season. Like I said, their pitching has been good. Zach Davies, didn't have his best outing, but again, the
Mm-hmm.
Cubs hitting could have picked them up too. So, I mean, and I just don't know. I just can't. I really just don't think we can figure out how this Cubs team, really is yet.
Yeah, just listen to some of these numbers and the players you just mentioned. Chris Bryant, 233 with 2 home runs, 4 RBI. Anthony Rizzo, 133, a homer and 2 RBI. Jock
Mm.
Peterson, 138. He has a home run and 4 runs knocked in, 1 home run and 2 RBI with a 172 batting average for Jason Hayward. And for Wilson Contreras, he's batting an even 200 with a home run and 3 RBI. Those guys I just mentioned, they're going to have to pick it up.
Yeah, that's not going to win you the division if you're trying to stay with the Cardinals and the Reds too, for that matter. They've had a pretty good start. They've kind of they've leveled off a bit. That's not you can't do that if you're trying to win the division. If you're trying to compete for the division, your guys have to step up, and that's not what's happening right now.
That's not what's happening on the north side right now. Hopefully they can turn it around. Another team that needs to turn it around quickly as they open up a 4-game series against the Cleveland Indians is the Southsiders, the Chicago White Sox. Lakeena, of course, I'm going to use the right side of my brain, the left side of my brain. For those of you that are new listeners, the right side of my brain represents the emotional side of me. The left side of my brain represents the intelligent side of me.
Very scientific, as you can see, people.
Thank you.
A little science.
She blinded me with science. Shout out Thomas Dolby, 1982, old school.
Love that
music.
song.
Hey.
Love that song.
Yes. And he helped out produce Houdini's first couple of albums.
He did.
Facts.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Go look it up. Now back to baseball.
Yeah, it was like he's like to create like all types of apps now. He's kind of becoming like that app guy. So he, just a technical genius. But go ahead, Sid.
Yes, he is a genius. Back to the Southsiders. The White Sox. The Saturday's game was rained out, and so they'll be made up on Friday, May 14th, as part of the seven inning doubleheader. Both those games will be 7 innings. But on Sunday, Lakeena.
Come on.
These are the games that you have to win if you're the White Sox. And Sunday's game was another prime example. Dylan Cease pitched his you-know-what off.
Mm-hmm.
After struggling last Sunday night on national television at the Angels, he pitched 6 strong innings, striking out 6. Even though he was in trouble the first couple of innings, he got out of them okay. The Sox had another bad game on defense with 2 errors. Yohan Moncada's error early in the game was inexcusable. And then he had Garrett Crochet's stupid error in the 10th inning, which led the Royals to score the game-winning run. Lakeena, this offense for the White Sox, they're still going to be good, okay? I know they scored 3 runs off 5 hits. But early in the game, they had a chance to bust the game right open when it was scoreless, and did not take advantage of this situation. Okay, I don't know if they're trying to go for the home run or not. I saw a couple balls getting knocked down on Sunday because of the wind. If this was June or July, like if you're a Sox fan, you know what I'm talking about when I say this. When the weather gets hot, those long balls they usually hit tend to get hit out of the ballpark. On the south side. I'm still not calling it a corporate name. Get over it. Anyway, but they had a chance to send the Royals home packing. It just didn't happen. Adam Eaton came off the bench and hit a 2-run shot. I said, this is it. The game is won. Anything can happen in baseball, but I felt pretty good. I said, the Sox are going to close this down, and we're going to start to see some things turn around from this team. Liam Hendricks, I gave him a pass last week, Lakeena, because the Sox won the Friday night game against the Angels. He gave up a couple of runs. I should have known that was a bad sign that was ahead, because what happened on Sunday was ridiculous. Now, I'm giving him a chance to turn things around, which I think he will. But so far, he has not had a good start to his White Sox career. I'm not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, or dirty bathwater, okay? I'm not going to do that. But I got called how I see it. Liam Hendricks has been terrible. Like I said, I'm going to give him a chance, so I'm not going to dismiss him just yet. I'm just upset what happened on Sunday. Aaron Bummer, who I'm still a big fan of, he's your perfect guy for the 8th inning. He didn't do us any favors either.
Well, and like I said before, and we talked about it during our White Sox preview, that middle relief is going to be a problem. If, outside of, Jimenez, getting hurt, the fielding, they've had their issues too. But, the middle relief, that's going to be a big problem for the White Sox. And unfortunately, it manifests, on Sunday. And look, you talk about the Cubs issues. I mean, look, the White Sox were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position on Sunday. So that the ball isn't carrying, unfortunately. you have to shorten up and manufacture runs. And look, sometimes you have to do that. They gotta wait until the weather gets warmer because, unfortunately, it's been in the 50s and the 60s, and unfortunately, the ball is going to be very unforgiving. And I've always felt that I'm not worried yet. I mean, I know I see like White Sox fans are already saying, "Hey, get the game's passing by, get him out of there." I mean, look.
That's ridiculous. You could be upset
just
at him. Okay, you could be concerned, but to say
yeah.
that, not to cut you off, but for Sox fans to start that mess already, go sit down.
Yeah, I mean, look, some of them. Okay, yeah, look, some of the moves he made. I mean, look, that last game in the Mariners series, like he admitted that he took it on himself. He said, it was stupid what I did. It's on me. But some of the other stuff, I mean, he's not on the field. Like I said on Friday, like I said over the weekend, he's not on the field. Yes, he can make the lineups and do pitching changes and this and that. But again, he's not on the field. He's not on the field dropping balls. He's not on, giving up, an RBI. I mean, that he's not doing that. And look, unfortunately, I'm sure they'll get it together. I'm sure they will. I mean, I don't want to say this series against the Indians is huge, this early on. But again, I think it would help if you split the series, don't get swept, because the Central, look. Everyone, the Indians, the Twins, and even the Tigers are playing well in the Central right now. So, again, I mean, you don't want to, you don't lose the division in the first month, but you can definitely lose ground, and a lot of it in the first month. So, I think people just need to kind of just chill out and sort of just take a breather and just, let this month play out, and then we'll have a better understanding of okay, should White Sox fans be worried, or were fans worrying for nothing?
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. That's me. As we talk about the Chicago White Sox in their 4-5 record as of this recording. Lakeena, taking a look at some of these numbers for the White Sox offensively. Their team leaders in batting averages, Yermin Mercedes, a.k.a. Mercedes Boy. Remember that song from Pebbles back in '88? Shout out Charlie Wilson of the Gap Band who produced that song.
Yes, he
Shout
did.
out to Babyface and L.A. Bree who produced that album. But back to baseball. Yermin Mercedes is leading the team in batting average with .536. Adam Eaton, as we mentioned a few moments ago, is leading the team with 2 home runs. 9 RBI belongs to Jose Abreu. On-base percentage with .594 is Yermin Mercedes, and Yermin Mercedes leads the team in hits with 15. Lakeena, I've been impressed by Yermin Mercedes. As we talked with Cheryl Ray Stout over the weekend in our last episode, Sox, give him a bobblehead day when you open things up and let more fans in. He needs a bobblehead day. I don't care what he does for the rest of the season, as long as he doesn't totally stink. Give him a bobblehead day. And give him a sponsorship, please.
Yes, Mercedes. Oh, come on, Mercedes.
Right, give him a Mercedes
give
or something.
Mercedes.
Okay?
Give him his own Mercedes. Let him pick out the color, whatever his favorite color is. Let him have that. I mean, this new. I'm sure they produced a new 2022. So, I mean, look, I think it's great. We'll see if as the season goes on, I think pitchers are going to start to figure him out. And. And look, I mean, we'll see. He's sort of like right in the top 5 of some of those averages you just mentioned, Sid, right now. But I think everyone else has to step up. I mean, look, Abreu, but he needs to start hitting, small. Also, Luis Robert. I mean, I think he needs to start. I know he hit a home. He hit a double yesterday, but he needs to step it up. I mean, Moncada needs to step it up. I mean, look, I think that all the guys are sort of like the guys that they should step up and they need to step up. I mean, look, Abreu has 9 RBIs right now, but he's sort of like be more consistent, hit the ball a little bit more. And, again, don't always go for the home run. Sometimes you got to play a little small ball, especially in this time of year when you're dealing with the weather. So I think, I think that's what they need to think about right now.
And that's the feel that I had on Sunday watching that game, especially with the bases loaded early in that game. This was not the time to try to hit a grand slam. If it would have happened, okay, great. But like you said, due to the weather, especially here in Chicago, where it was barely 52 degrees, you play small ball. You get aggressive, hit and run, and you have to win baseball games a different kind of way. As we talked about it with the Cubs earlier, if you're a home run hitting team, when you're not hitting home runs, you cannot find other ways to score consistently. You're going to get exposed. And it's just something that I don't want to see happen with the White Sox. If any good news that could come out of this, Lakeena, especially as they kick off this 4-game series with the Cleveland Indians, Tim Anderson, their star shortstop, should be back by the end of this week, because after they wrap up the 4-game series against Cleveland here in Chicago, they go to Boston for the weekend for 3. I know Boston doesn't look like a strong team on paper, but they're playing some good baseball right now. I know they beat the crap out of the Baltimore Orioles. They're one of the worst teams in the league, okay? But unlike the White Sox, Boston's over 500 right now.
Well, and also too, I don't think they're going to be able to keep it up. I know JD Martinez just hit another. I think they had 3 home runs on Sunday. But again, I'm not. Look, right now, I mean, it's early. I think Boston's going to come back to earth. I know the Yankees have had their struggles too early on. I know Blue Jays have been up and down as well. But again, like I said, it's early. You really can't. And like you said, so the Red Sox beat up on the Orioles. So I'm not gonna oh my God, like they're 6-2. I mean 6-3, I should say. Yay! After this recording, no, they look and consider who they played against. Look, you're supposed to beat up on the Orioles. Everyone's gonna be beating up on the Orioles this year. So let's just slow it down in that sense.
Yeah, look. Since we have a couple minutes left, Lakeena, before we have to take a quick timeout, what impressed you most about any baseball baseball over the weekend? I had a chance to watch a little bit more than I normally would, especially on Saturday. I'll take your spot. I'll start.
Go start. Go you
Seattle take it. Yeah, Seattle take it 2 or 3 from the Minnesota Twins on the White Sox, and then Twins will be battling on the AL Central all year long, and I expect it to become a battle as the season goes on. But Seattle taking 2 out of 3 in Minnesota over the weekend. I was impressed by that. Sunday night baseball, let me jump on it now since it's on my mind. The Atlanta Braves, I know they're struggling coming out of the gate, but the Philadelphia Phillies, they're playing some good baseball to start out, but that call on Sunday night, Alec Baum scoring on a sacrifice fly from Didi Gregorius, that should have been an out.
Yeah.
Everybody in as the kids would say, in they mama, in the family dog, saw that play, and Baum was clearly out for the Phillies. But after a review, and that Sunday night baseball, they have 5, 6, 7, 8 different camera angles, and you still call Baum safe? You got to be kidding me. And I heard some of the Atlanta players and their manager, too, basically saying after the game, I'm just paraphrasing here, if you're going to have replay, if the result is going to come out of replay on a call like that, you shouldn't have replay at all. And I agree.
Well, this is like I said, this is similar to.
I'm not saying replay is not needed in baseball, because we all know that it does. Just not on balls and strikes, which if that was the case, the games would go on for 7 hours. I don't have that kind of time in my life. But
no one has that kind of time, Sid. But
and I like baseball, but dragging things out, doing unnecessary crap. Like I said, I can go on for that. But back to the play.
There have been guys that have said, I think Boog Xiami said this, like I was mentioning about the Contreras play, on Sunday, where he was, he was going to second base, but he was called out, but he should have been safe. A home plate, I should say. And look, I heard, him and I think others have said that maybe they should, do the same thing that the NFL does. Maybe have somebody, they have somebody in New York, I guess, making the plays, but unfortunately, I don't know what angles are they using, but look, you got the technology now. Why not just, let's just use it. I think, look, I know people want to baseball is the human element and blah, 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 but, you don't want these kind of things to cost you games. And I think that's the problem right now. And look, that Fromm play was just as absurd, if not even more absurd, as a Contreras play. And I mean, Jesus, I don't know what else to say. I mean, unless you completely change the replay system, which I think probably needs an overhaul. You got the technology now. You got camera angles. You got Zoom. Not Zoom like what we're doing, but Zoom like in the cameras. I mean, you got the technology. Yeah. The technology is there. It's 2021. I mean, come on.
Thank you. I was listening to Jesse Rogers, who covers MLB for ESPN. He also works as a part-time host with ESPN Chicago. He was on Cap and Jay Hood, their morning show over there on Monday. And he brought up an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of alluded to this as well. And now they started this actually last year in the NBA in the bubble, but they continued it on this year about announcing the call to the fans via the mic. You see that in football, you see it in hockey, and you're seeing it now in the NBA. Why can't they do that in Major League Baseball? You give the call to the announcers, both radio and television, both the local teams and the national TV. It's a national game. But why can't you give the announcement to the crowd? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of like kind of odd, the fact that do you think they would have it in the background that, well, this person's out, or this person's been, this rule's been over, this play's been overturned. I mean, it's sort of they do it in the NFL where they have mics
Mhm.
on there. They can say get people find out at home when they people find out in the stadium or in the arena. Why can't they do that? Why can't they do that in baseball? I don't know, but you know how baseball is. So they want to have like their own rules, and they want to stick to the
Yeah.
whole tried and true, and not want to come into the 21st century. So I think
Yeah,
that's
they're
another
slow to
problem.
change. Yeah, they're slow to change.
Yeah, that's slow to change.
And also, too, for the weekend, the Los Angeles Dodgers sweeping away the Washington Nationals. I did watch that game on Sunday. Clayton
Mm-hmm.
Kershaw it pitched a well of a game. And Kenley Jansen, their
Kelly
closer,
Jansen, yep,
I know he's
yeah.
been on the rocks for the last year and a half or so. He's been okay so far. He did a great job on Sunday shutting it down for the Dodgers. I know I don't want to look ahead too much if you're the Dodgers, but they got a big 4-game series, I believe, against Colorado this week, and then they go to San Diego for the weekend. I cannot wait for that series to get started. I know they're San Diego is going to miss Fernando Tatis Jr., but that San Diego team's a good ball club. And congratulations to that Padres organization. They finally got their first no-hitter in team history this past Friday against the Texas Rangers on the road.
I know. I was just gonna mention that Joe
Mhm.
Musgrove.
Yes.
He's a San Diego kid. 52 years is this franchise has been around. That's their first no hitter. I
Mm-hmm.
was shocked. I was
Yeah.
shocked. I was shocked when I saw it. I'm like, wait, really? They've never had a no hitter. I mean, the Marlins have had multiple no hitters. The Diamondbacks have had multiple no hitters, but yet
The
this is
White
the
Sox had
first.
one last year with Giolito.
Exactly, and the Cubs had one last year with Mills. I mean, look,
Yeah.
the Padres have played 8,205 games up until that Friday
Mm-hmm.
that Friday game, and like they've had before their first no hitter. That's absurd, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at the Mets. They had like all over like 8,019 games before, of course, they had that that no hitter in 2012, and
Mhm.
it's just crazy that this is their first no hitter, and look, happen to be a guy from San Diego, so
Mhm.
shouts out to him in their 8,206 game. they get their no hitter, so it's crazy. It's congrats to him, and look, the Padres, like you said, they've been playing well, and we'll see how Tatis, when he'll be able to come back. But they have won 3 in a row, so that's so far they've been kind of holding down the fort in that sense. But the Dodgers, like you said, they're proving to you why they're the defending World Series champs. It's
Mhm.
just amazing that this team. I think they're showing everybody that, look, we want a repeat. They want
Mhm.
that World Series back. They know that the Padres. I can't wait till they start playing the Padres. I think they played it the first time like in a couple of weeks. I gotta look up their schedules. Pardon me, but I'm looking forward to that. I know Tatis probably won't be around, by then, but I'm
Mhm.
but I'm loving what they're doing right now. Jansen's been playing very, pitching very well for them. Now on the AL, I think you got to be impressed with what Cleveland is doing. They've won 4 in a row. We keep hearing that, okay, this is going to be the time they're going to blow it all up. But their guys
Mhm.
have, so far they've been, playing very well. And I look at, you got Terry Francona. As long as he's the manager, his guys are going to play well. They're not, you're
Mhm.
not going to. They're not gonna see any like half-assing it, pardon my language, if you
Yeah.
will. But look, also JD Martinez, you gotta give him props for everything he's doing. He has 16 RBIs, leading the league, and 5
Mhm.
homers. Had a couple over the weekend. I mean, you got to give him props for what he's doing. Keep it up. Who knows? But again, props to him and what everything he's doing. And I just think that, look, I think this is a sort of like, I know baseball is a long season, but seeing these type of performances of what Jacob deGrom did, had 14 strikeouts over the weekend. I mean, and it's going to be very interesting to see, if the Mets can get it together, because they've had their struggles, because of course they couldn't start, in the first week with the Nationals because the Nationals had COVID issues and such. So hopefully, we'll see, maybe the Mets can get into a rhythm.
Yeah. Two quick shout outs from the world of baseball. Troy Mancini from the Baltimore Orioles. We gave him some love last week for coming back from the colon cancer. The Orioles fans gave him some much needed standing ovation last week. He hit a home run over the weekend in that series against Boston. So congrats to him, and congrats to the Oakland Athletics. They took 2 games from Houston this weekend. I did watch some of that game on Saturday. Ooh, they jumped on Houston early.
Oh, they just look. I mean, I think Oakland, maybe Oakland is starting to kind of get it right, and we're going to see them, battle with Houston for the AL West. I mean, I know the Angels are playing very well right now. Sadly for Dexter Fowler, tore his ACL. He's done for the year.
Yeah,
just
that stinks.
It stinks for them. He reunites with Joe Madden, and just a weird play that he tears his ACL on. Unfortunately, it's rare that guys tear their ACLs in baseball, but it sucks. With any ACL injury, it sucks when it happens. So, get well soon to him. Like you said, the Phillies and also to the Reds, they've kind of kept, they lost a couple in a row. They lost their series over the weekend, but I think that, like I said, I think by the time, what we reach the end of the month, I think we'll get more defined, story on how these teams are, who's a pretender, who's a contender, and, who's going to be the guy that sticks out.
All right. That wraps up segment number 1 of Second City Sports.
That went by quick.
Yes, that's what happens when you have a lot of fun. We'll have a lot more fun on the flip side as we'll talk about the best and worst from the NBAs. We'll get back into basketball from the weekend, and we'll preview some of the big games coming up for this week. We'll get into Lakeena's Masters update and review from the weekend, and we have a couple of fun topics for you. You're listening to Second City Sports with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the second half of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown, which is me. You can follow yours truly on Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_me on the IG.
You can catch Second City Sports first right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media every Monday and Friday. Once again, you can catch Second City Sports first on YouTube at War Media every Monday and every Friday. Our podcast schedule has not changed. You can catch the audio version of this program every Tuesday and Saturday at War on Anchor. Once again, every Tuesday and Saturday for the podcast on War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor, which kicks you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and that iHeartRadio app. Please type in the search engine box on all podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. Also, you can go to our website, weareregalradio.com, for more information. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we are unapologetically fun. Lakeena, let's jump back into it. Let's talk some basketball. The National Basketball Association. Let's go around the league, and I'll give my take first on the best and worst from the weekend that was in the world of pro basketball. Lakeena, did you see this coming? The Los Angeles Lakers defeat the Brooklyn Nets on national television on Saturday, 126-101. Kyrie Irving and Dennis Schroeder got ejected for saying a bunch of epithets. We won't get into that here. Check out the highlights on social media for that for yourselves. But as far as the game was concerned, Taylor Horton Tucker came up big for the Los Angeles Lakers. He scored 14 points. Kentavious Caldwell Pope in 32 minutes of action also scored 14 points. Andre Drummond made his return to the lineup. He scored 20 points and grabbed 11 rebounds. And Marcus Morris scored 14 points as Markieff Morris, I should say, scored 14 points as well. Lakeena, looking at that game, the Brooklyn Nets didn't know what hit them. The Lakers applied the pressure, and they just would not let up. I know Kevin Durant tried his best to keep up for the Brooklyn Nets as he scored 22 points. Kyrie Irving had 18 before his ejection. But the Brooklyn struggled shooting the ball. They shot 43%, which wasn't too bad, but they only shot 18% from three-point range, just not going to get it done. The Lakers took control from the word go, and they did not look back.
I mean, it's just amazing. When I saw the score, I thought that was a typo. I swear I did. I'm like, wait, huh? And then I looked at the box score. Andre Drummond had 20 and 11, and I think you mentioned all the role players, like we said. Wesley Matthews, I know a lot of people didn't think he was still around. They had 17 points off the bench. So look, they're getting balanced scoring. And look, I think this is a team that you thought you expected when Andre Drummond got there. Like you said, hopefully they can kind of, get into a rhythm, until, LeBron and AD are able to get back. I think, look, if you're the Lakers, this is like a great confidence boost because you've been struggling lately, especially struggling against not so good teams. So being a team like the Nets, the way they did, I mean, they basically, like you said, they basically dominated from the word go. I mean, the Nets only scored 19 in the third quarter. As the Lakers were pulling away, that's not going to do it for you. And look, I think this will be very interesting to see what they do because I'm looking forward to seeing, how this team looks on a consistent basis. Like I said, I mean, I think this is the Lakers team I think we thought was coming.
Yes, and speaking of those role players for the Lakers, we said this before too, Lakeena. Who's going to step up and perhaps earn their minutes come playoff time, assuming that LeBron James and Anthony Davis come back in time to get their feet wet and get some games underneath them before the playoffs. This is the time for guys like Kuzma, who did not play on Saturday, but is players like him, Horton Tucker, and Dennis Schroeder, and some of the other guys you mentioned, Wes Matthews, who's going to earn the trust of the coaching staff come playoff time? Because we all know, Lakeena, your starters play 38 to 43 minutes tops.
Yeah.
During the playoffs. So most teams will have a three-man rotation, sometimes four. It depends on the injury or one of your starters getting in foul trouble. But you only play 3 or 4 guys tops off the bench come playoff time. So it's the time for these role players for the Lakers to see who's going to earn some extra minutes come the second season.
Yeah, like I said before, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think, I'm kind of like interested to see what's going to happen here. And I kind of feel like, oh, okay, this is a team that we thought we were going to see. This is sort of, Schroeder had 19 before he got ejected. And I think that, I think this we're seeing, like I said, Kuzma didn't play, of course, injuries, but, I kind of like, okay, I can see why, okay, this is kind of like your team that you thought that, okay, this is who we thought that they would be. And especially with Drummond coming in, hopefully we can see this consistently from them. And maybe they can make a little bit of a run to kind of get back near like the top 2 or 3 in the Western Conference.
Yes, if you're the Lakers, you got to avoid that 7th spot. And you don't want to have to win an extra game just to hang on to a playoff spot. And so this win was very important. I know they had the Knicks coming up. That game will have been played when this episode's released. But for the Lakers, you need to get on the roll. And I know LeBron James hopefully is due back in a couple of weeks. Anthony Davis, that Achilles injury is tricky, almost like hamstrings and sprained ankles, which LeBron James has right now, a sprained ankle. But LeBron James, hopefully he'll be back in a couple of weeks. The schedule's almost in your favor.
Yep.
And Anthony Davis, you got to be careful with him. But this was a huge win for the Lakers, and hopefully it'll kind of turn their season around, at least help them ride the ship until LeBron James gets back first.
Yeah, I mean, they got New York, they have Charlotte, they have New York Monday, of course, where we, as of this recording, they got Boston, they got the back-to-backs against Utah and Dallas. That's just a safe travel, folks. I know people are going to be saying, didn't they play already? look, that's just to save. That's just, like I said, because of COVID, this is good. There's a lot of teams are going to be doing this, as the season going down the home stretch here. So, look, definitely some opportunities to win some games. And, look, having Andre Drummond there, like I said, I think he can kind of help sort of hold down the fourth until LeBron and AD are able to come back. And, look, hopefully, if you're a Lakers fan, hopefully you'll see this type of performance that you saw on Saturday against the Nets.
Also, another great performance from over the weekend. Enes Kanter of the Portland Trail Blazers as the Blazers defeat the Detroit Pistons 118-103. 24 points for Mr. Kanter, but 30 rebounds. The first time a Blazers player has done that in 3 years.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And he's kind of like that role player for the Blazers. I think that's the most in history, that 30 rebounds. The 12 offensive are the most in the franchise history. He's a fourth player with 30 rebounds in a game in the last 20 seasons, joined Dwight Howard in 18 and Andrew Bynum in 2012 and, Kevin Love once they started, holding a stat in that fashion in 2011. So look, I think he's one of those role players that we've been saying that Portland, if they can stay healthy, can be right up there with the LA teams and Utah. So hopefully now with everybody back, they can kind of be that team. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Portland. As I'll still stand on my mountain that Damian Lillard should be a top 3 candidate for MVP. Now, Sunday's action was very compelling. I know most people didn't pay attention to it because you had the Masters going on. You still have the early season start for baseball, but the Atlanta Hawks, who defeated the Bulls on last Friday, they defeated the Charlotte Hornets on the road 105-101. The Celtics got a big win on the road in Denver 105-87. Jason Tatum 28 points, 10 rebounds. Nikola Jokic struggled. He only had 17 points and 10 rebounds, 11 assists. He had a triple-double, but the Nuggets struggled shooting for that game. So especially in that fourth quarter, it was just got downright ugly for the home team. I did watch some of this game via my computer. The New Orleans Pelicans defeated the Cavaliers 116-109. The Pelicans are still hanging around that 9th, 10th playoff spot. Zion Williamson quietly is having a good year. The all-star berth of the first of his career was well-deserved this year. I know the hype train has left the station for him because he was injured last year during his rookie season. He had 38 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists.
Sorry about that, folks, as I was doing something on the side here. But, yeah, I mean, look, I think they're sort of like quietly, kind of getting to sort of like maybe they finally found their niche with new head coach Stan Van. And, look, I think, Zion, I think this is starting to show you why I think people kind of had him sort of be like the second coming, the second, next big star in the NBA. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the team. They're going up in the playoff standings. And look, I think they can kind of be sort of like that team, are they there yet? Are they there with the Jazz and the LA teams? No, probably not right now. But I think they can kind of sort of be sort of like that team that's going to give teams fits if they do make the playoffs.
Other action from last Sunday, the New York Knicks, they're around the 500 mark as of this recording. They defeated the Raptors 102-96. Julius Randle, the first-time All-Star, he carried his weight with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. I did watch most of this game via my computer. This Knicks team is playing very good with defense right now. Nerlens Noel had a key block on Pascal Siakam in the last 30 seconds of that game. Tom Thibodeau is clearly making a big difference for that Knicks squad. I'm not going to – well, I'll sit here and say it. I'll guarantee it, the Knicks will be in the playoffs. This is as far as I'll go with that squad this year. I know it sounds strange coming out of my mouth. I'm sure we have a few New York Knicks fans listening around the world on this podcast, but I guarantee you the Knicks will be in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, look, like I said, the East is so bad. I think that's probably the one way they'll get it is because the East is terrible. And look, I think Julius Randle has been playing very well. I think D Rose has been like a nice addition to that team. We'll see what they can do. I mean, as the season progresses, like I said, I mean, they have a tough schedule, and like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see how they do, where they finish in the playoff standings. Because, like I said before, they're going to get in the East because the East is so bad. So I'm looking. I like seeing this team play. Obviously, again, we'll see if this keeps up, but we'll see what they can do. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing more of this team as they have a pretty tough schedule. As the season goes on, the second half. So I'll be interested to see what they do.
Wrapping up last Sunday's action, the Pacers get by the Grizzlies 132-125. Karis LeVert, it's nice to see him back on the court after his health issues. He scored 34 points for the winning team for the Pacers. The Clippers get by the Detroit Pistons 131-124. Without Kawhi Leonard, Paul George stepped up, had a big game, 32 points and 9 assists. I did watch most of that game via my computer. And Alana Tekauer, a friend of the show, her Miami Heat, they defeated the Portland Trail Blazers 107-98. Jimmy Butler, another big game from him with 20 points and 4 rebounds. And the game of the night from Sunday, the San Antonio Spurs on the DeMar DeRozan game-winning shot defeated the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas 119-117. As we said before, Lakeena, the Spurs are in transition. Even though they don't have LaMarcus Aldridge anymore, they let him go. He signed with the Brooklyn Nets. This team is hanging around. Give Greg Popovich, the head coach, credit for that. Kristaps Porzingis for the other side for the Dallas Mavericks. He scored a season-high 31 points and grabbed 15 rebounds. If you're the Dallas Mavericks, Lakeena, as we said before for the last couple of weeks, I like the way they've been playing. They had turned their season around after an early start that was bad. But the San Antonio Spurs, they're still hanging around. You cannot count them out just yet, even though it's not the Spurs that we're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing in Dallas. Like I said, like we said earlier this year, I mean, there have been folks that were calling for Rick Carlisle's job, and I'm looking to see how far they can go up, because I think, look, this is a team that can definitely sort of cause problems for some of the top tier teams, and I think that win against the Spurs can only help them. And look, we'll see what they can do in the playoffs, once, especially as the season gets more and more, and the schedule gets more and more difficult for them.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I'm Sydney Brown. That's me. As we talk about the National Basketball Association, before we move on, Lakeena, let's give out some of the key matchups for this week in the NBA. We'll start off with Tuesday's action, which is tonight for those of you listening on our podcast form. The first game of the TNT doubleheader at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time is the Los Angeles Clippers. As they start their East Coast road trip, they'll take on the Indiana Pacers.
That should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to that one. And look, I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup here. And I don't know, Sid. I mean, where do you see this game? Because I kind of feel like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers pull off, which would be considered the minor upset. What about you?
You're stealing my talking points once again. I know the Pacers are
great minds.
I know the Pacers are hanging around that play-in tournament, those final few playoff spots, along with the Bulls and Hawks, and it's like you said, it's a pile-up. Car crash pileup for those last few spots.
Yes.
But I won't be surprised. Will Kawhi Leonard return for this game? We shall see. But the Clippers had a big win. They had to scrap and claw to beat the Pistons on their home floor on Sunday. And let's see how they do starting out their West Coast road trip. At 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, it's the Lakers against the Hornets. Missing stars from both teams. Again, no LaMelo Ball for the Hornets. Of course, no LeBron James and no Anthony Davis for the Lakers. At 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, shout out to Alana Tekauer again. Her Miami Heat will face the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, that should be a fun one there. Jimmy Butler versus Devin Booker. That should be that should be a lot of fun. And the second half of that TNT doubleheader, Boston and Portland. Jason Tatum, I mean, scored 50 points a couple of days ago, 53. That's the most since Larry Bird, who scored a franchise record, 60, of course, in 85. But, you got, Tatum versus Dame. I think that should be that should be a lot of fun. I'm glad it's going to be on TNT because people will be able to see it.
Yeah, speaking of that, the Larry Bird 60-point game against Atlanta back in 85, I want to say that was. And that game was played in New Orleans. I wonder why that game was played in New Orleans, because Atlanta does not play that game in New Orleans. But I got to watch that game on YouTube. You just reminded me. So I have a little bit more time this week, so hopefully I can get to watch that game in its entirety via the YouTube. jumping up to Wednesday's action from the National Basketball Association. The first game of the doubleheader for ESPN at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Brooklyn Nets taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. If you're Brooklyn, hopefully Kyrie Irving will be back. Hopefully James Harden will be back. We know that Kevin Durant is going to play. This will be the last matchup between these two teams this season. On the flip side, Joel Embiid, he is back. He's been playing well these last few games. He's a top MVP candidate in my mind.
I think he's definitely kind of, especially since coming back, I think he's definitely can help sort of, validate his MVP status. And look, I know that, Jokic will have a say. We've been, Dame, also CP3, we talked about it over the weekend. Maybe he should be getting some MVP love, but I think Embiid, since coming back, I think is still the leader in the clubhouse, I believe. So.
Besides the Bulls in the Orlando Magic playing at 7 o'clock from the United Center, at the same time you'll have the Milwaukee Bucks facing at the Minnesota Timberwolves. This game should be interesting. I'll definitely be watching this one via my computer. At the same time at 7 p.m., you'll have the New York Knicks traveling to New Orleans to face Zion Williamson and the Pelicans.
That should be a lot of fun, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of scoring too. No doubt about it. And about the defense too. I mean, both Stan Van and Tibbs are both defensive guys. So we'll see what they'll have in store. Dallas and Memphis, Luka versus Ja. I think that should be a fun one there. That's going to be the second half of that ESPN doubleheader at 8:30 tomorrow night. Miami and Denver. That should be a fun one at 9 o'clock.
I'll be looking at that one as well.
We'll be looking at watching that game via my laptop. All right. Go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Okay. Now moving to Thursday's action as we load up the games here. The first game of the TNT doubleheader at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Milwaukee Bucks will travel to Atlanta to take on the improving Hawks.
That should be an interesting one there. Boston and Los Angeles. I mean, that's like half of that TNT doubleheader. I mean, look, they've always had, for years and years, these two teams have had their battles. So, it should be a lot of fun. Both teams are sort of like having their struggles right now. We'll see where they are by the time they play this game. It's always a fun one when these two teams, play each other. I'm sure they're going to TNT will give you all the history and all the nuance and stuff and all the stuff that goes on. So, it should be fun.
All right, let's move over finally to Friday's action. A rare Friday afternoon game, and that's going to be aired on NBA TV at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Indiana Pacers going to Utah to take on the hot start Jazz. The Jazz have won 24 or 25 straight home games.
Let me see. So where they're playing that game at 2 o'clock 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is going to be, I think it's going to be like 11 a.m. or I think like 1 o'clock, I think, I guess maybe there might be
over in Salt Lake. Yeah.
Yeah, there might
1
be something going on.
Time.
Yeah, there might be something going on. I guess that's probably why they're doing that. But look, this should be fun. It'll be interesting to see the scheduling, change, how these guys are how their bodies are going to react to having to play at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That should be interesting. Also, too, a game that, the first game, the ESPN doubleheader, that could be maybe perhaps, the preview of the NBA Finals. Who knows? And, the Clippers and the Sixers. That should be interesting.
Yep. Hopefully everybody's healthy for both teams for their game on Friday. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Of course, at 6:30 p.m. Chicago time is the Charlotte Hornets going to New York to take on the Brooklyn Nets. Of course, at 7 o'clock locally, you'll have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Chicago Bulls from the United Center wrapping up their season series. They play each other twice this week. Mm-hmm. And at 7 p.m., shout out to Alana Techauer, friend of the show as well. Her Heat will take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. At 7:30, the Trailblazers will travel to San Antonio to take on the Spurs. And then the nightcap on ESPN, the New York Knicks will travel to Dallas to take on Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis. He's facing his former team, the Dallas Mavericks.
That should be fun, too. Also, Portland, San Antonio, look, it's always interesting when those two play each other. So, you got to, you gotta have to get out for that game. I know San Antonio is sort of going through a little bit of a sort of, I don't want to say a rebuild, but they're kind of like resetting. So, but again, look, those two teams always had their battles in recent years, so that should be a fun one in San Antonio.
All right, Lakeena, let's move on to the Masters. We had two Masters tournaments in golf over the last 6 months. Of course, last year's tournament was played in November due to the pandemic. This year, it was back on schedule. We had history made. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Hideki Matsuyama, 29 years old from Japan. He is the first Japanese man to win a major. He's the first Japanese player to win the Masters. And this is significant because there have been guys that have come on tour from Japan and from Asia that have had their successes. Of course, Wai Yang, of course, famously upset Tiger in the PGA Championship years ago, back in the early 2000s. KJ Choi from Korea has won a couple of big tournaments. I think he's playing in the Master, the Champions League, Champions Tour events. I think they're also in Asia too, which he travels back and forth. This is the guy Matsuyama who's been around for years. He won the amateur 10 years ago, almost 10 years to the day, almost over the weekend, joining guys like Jack and Tiger and Phil and Sergio, who all won the amateur, will go on and win the Masters. And look, this guy was, very even keeled, on the outside, but he said himself on the inside, he was very nervous, and he stayed very even keeled, and he played well. Look, he could have easily lost it when had that shot at 15 and went to the drink, but he didn't do that. I mean, he was able to save a bogey, and then I think some of the players around him didn't do too well. I mean, Xander Schauffele, who's an American, who was right there for the Masters in November, was very close to winning there. Of course, Dustin Johnson won that one and pulled that out. I think he would have made it interesting had he not had that terrible triple bogey. He went for it, it didn't work. Had a triple bogey at 16, which kind of sealed it for Matsuyama. And look, as for Matsuyama, I mean, he's from Japan. He's from a country where they're golf crazy. There are all types of courses up and down Japan, and a little over 9 million people in Japan play golf in some way, in some form or capacity. So this is a big, win of, kind of a inspiring and pioneering one for him. And look, he's been around a while. He's led in some, in a couple of majors. He knows, he's been around the guys, he's very well liked on tour. So this is, people are very excited for him. And look, I mean, hopefully this will be kind of like the start of a sort of an influx of more and more Japanese players. Of course, with the Olympics being in Tokyo this year, he's I'm sure going to be the favorite there. That's a course he knows pretty well. So look, I think let's give a little shout out to golf's newest star.
No doubt. A couple of things quickly, Lakeena. Of course, I'm a casual golf fan, i.e. Tiger. I know Tiger wasn't there this year. I know he's recovering from his accident. We wish him the best of luck.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
I did watch the highlights from Sunday, and I did watch a clip from the ceremony inside the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, Lakeena, as Jim Nance is there from CBS, the chairman of the Masters Committee, and then they have somebody else there. You can remind me, but they were all kind of sitting, not together, but they were sitting pretty close. Now, I know that the golfers were tested for COVID before they participated. Now, were the other people vaccinated or not? I'm not sure, but I figure, I know things are starting to get back to normal a little bit, but maybe it's just me. I don't want to overreact or be conspiracy up in here, but as I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening on our podcast, but they were sitting a little bit too close for me. I know they didn't shake hands. They did with the winner of the tournament and all the other people in the room.
Yeah,
they did give out fist bumps. I said, okay, but they were sitting a little bit too close for me. I didn't have a problem with it. I just figured okay.
Well, there were only 5 of them there. I mean, you had, he had Nance, he had the chairman of the Augusta Club, and you had Dustin Johnson, who was the defending champion, also right to Matsuyama's right, his longtime interpreter. He's been an interpreter since he joined the tour. They were pretty far apart, and I'm sure at least a couple of those guys have been vaccinated already. I'm sure, and so I'm thinking they get tested for COVID daily. I'm sure both the media and the players, so to avoid that situation. And who knows, maybe some of them, if not all of them, have already been vaccinated. I don't know, but there was only 5 people. They were distant enough, so. You know,
Okay.
I'm
Like I said, they're not vaccinated, but I know the players were tested. I know that
yeah,
for sure. But
yeah.
if the
So
media members were tested and obviously they were negative, okay, then okay, this conversation is null and void. I really didn't have a problem with it. I was like, it's just interesting. I'm not gonna make a big brouhaha about it, but I just figured interesting.
yeah. So it'd still be interesting to see what. Well, yeah. I think I'm sure. Oh, look, I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was still. Look, and who knows? Some of them haven't may have been vaccinated already. So I don't know, but.
Hmm.
I'm not. I didn't freak out about it as much as I thought I would. I mean, look, they were far apart. There were only 5 people there. And look, there's a lot of
Okay.
air
Yeah.
around, and it wasn't that cold. So I'm sure there were windows open, so there was ventilation. So I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was fine.
Spread that COVID out the window. We're in the
Yeah,
south, not window.
yeah.
Spread that funk out the window.
Yeah. So look, yeah, I'm not freaking out too much about that. So
Right. I just thought it was interesting. I didn't really have a problem with it, anything like that. They didn't really do anything crazy. It was one of those things that make you go,
yeah, yeah. Look, I understand look. I saw some folks were saying it on Twitter too. So you're not the only one, but look, I
Okay.
understand. But look, I'm sure there were a lot of precautions. Look, I'm sure maybe some of those folks, guys, have already been vaccinated, had their first dose. So I'm sure it's okay.
Yeah, speaking of being vaccinated, congratulations to the Chicago White Sox, their players, and their whole entire the staff and the organization. Saturday's game against the Kansas City Royals, as we mentioned earlier in the show, they'll be made up on Friday, May 14th. It's part of a 7-inning doubleheader. Saturday's game was rained out. Most of the organization got vaccinated, so we want to say congratulations to those members of the Chicago White Sox organization. I know there's still. We talked about this with Cheryl Ray Stout on our last episode. Please go to War Media here on YouTube to watch the interview if you want to watch it. If you want to listen to it, just go to War or Anchor, look for the episode with Cheryl Ray Stout in our previous episode. She talked about this with us, that there's going to be some players there that are going to be hesitant about it. From what I read and what I saw, the couple of players that were hesitant to get the vaccine, they got the vaccine, so the majority of the organization is vaccinated. So just want to say congratulations to the White Sox.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting though to see how all this other stuff. I mean, look, there's going to be some players and coaches that are going to hesitate, but there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, I think at this point, I think a lot of folks are just waiting for herd immunity. I think that's what
Yeah.
some folks are going to be waiting on. To look, you can't make these guys do it. They're going to have their reasons for not doing it. I'm not talking about the anti-vaxxers and people who believe conspiracy theories of the vaccine. Look, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about folks who
Right.
have like legitimate, hesitation to get it. And look, I mean, look, the unions they're not going to make their players get it. That's why I've heard like some people in Hollywood, not to go out off subject for sports, but some people are saying in Hollywood that actors should get fired if they don't want to get the vaccine. Like you can't do that because you're going to be asking for a lawsuit. So look, you can't unless they're a particular guild, whether it's the SAG or the DGA or guilds like that or unions like that. Unless they tell their people like you have to get a vaccine, you don't have to do it. So I think it's going to be up to look. I saw some folks we know, I won't say their names, say, well, you'll do the right thing, get vaccinated. Look, you can't make these people get back unless President Biden's going to put in like a mandate. Look, everybody's got to get vaccinated. He's not going to do that, obviously.
You know they cannot do that either.
No,
They can
no.
try, but you cannot. Like you said, lawsuits and protests and who knows what could happen. I hope we don't go down that road, and I don't think we will. But like you said, like, you can't force grown adults to do something they don't want to do. We should have this is why we live in America, right? Freedom of choice, correct? And maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
Look,
Okay.
yeah. Look, I mean, it's crazy that people are like freaking out that because no one's gotten the vaccine yet. Look, I know people who've gotten it, but I know some folks who aren't going to get it, and look, they have their reasons, and look, I'm not gonna say their names and stuff for their privacy, but look, and like I said with LeBron's gonna make his decision for himself and his family. You can't. He doesn't owe y'all anything, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Thank you. Take care of yourselves, folks. Worry about yourselves. The only person you can control is yourself.
Exactly.
Facts.
All right, Sid.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I'm Sidney Brown, which is me. We have a few minutes left, Lakeena. If you listen to this podcast on Tuesday, which is today, you know that in the world of basketball is the anniversary of a couple of things.
Mhm.
First, Kobe Bryant, still can't believe that he's passed away.
Yeah.
But 5 years ago today, he played his last game in the NBA as the member of the Los Angeles Lakers. They defeated the Utah Jazz. Kobe Bryant put up 60 points in his final game. No one saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. It was a great moment. I'll rewatch it again sometime this week via the YouTube.
Mhm.
Number two, the Golden State Warriors on the same day today, 5 years ago, they defeated the Memphis Grizzlies to clinch the winningest team, regular season team in NBA history. Of course, the Warriors went 73-9. In that same season,
Mhm.
lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals after holding a 3-1 series lead. The reason why I mentioned that is because the Chicago Bulls held the record previously for most wins in a season in 96 with 72, and they won the championship in the same season.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the thing.
So,
That's gonna be the thing that they're gonna hold that over the Warriors' heads, that they actually
mhm.
end up winning it. Of course, they lost to LeBron and the Cavs. So, look, I mean, it's hard to believe that that Kobe's gone, and it's been that long since he scored that many points in his final game. And also, this is
Yeah.
actually the date that that he tore his Achilles, as he made 2 3 before having to leave against that Warriors team. So
Yeah, in 2013. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
yep.
And also, too, those two moments has a Chicago connection.
Hmm.
The Bulls played the Philadelphia 76ers to wrap up that 2015-2016 season. The reason why that was significant was because the Bulls did not make the playoffs, and that was the end of the Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah era, is because both those players were traded over the summer to the New York Knicks. And during that night, Lakeena, guess what the Bulls organization did? Gar Forman and John Paxson held a press conference which no one gave a damn about. Those two
Oh,
boobs decided to put. They were trying to be so slick. They held the end of the year press conference at the same time that Kobe's final game was going on, and the Warriors were going for history. Those two boobs decided to hold the year-end review press conference, thinking they was trying to slip one past us in the media and fans. Oh, they got caught so bad.
I know
I
they got.
remember doing the show down at the Illinois Media School. I remember our D.N. Davis, and shout out to Charles Prodigy, Richard. We just started our show
Hmm.
at that time on Saturday afternoons after that. We gave Garpax the business. You could slip one past us, man. Oh, that's the wild thing I remember about that the most. The Bulls missed the playoffs. Garpax, they decided to hold a press conference following the game, thinking they were going to get away with it. You guys got caught.
Yeah, it's sort of crazy that they try to kind of
Yep,
take the spotlight from Kobe, and then hey, just
exactly.
feel out a whole lot of word salad. It's just crazy.
Thinking that no one was going to pay attention. This is Chicago. We pay attention, damn it.
We to everything.
Yes. All right,
Okay.
Lakeena. My last moment or two of the show for today. Uh, we've learned a whole lot of things about this, about ourselves and about society, about the world during this last year or so with the pandemic. Even though things are starting to open back up slowly, we're starting to see fans in the stands, both in the NBA and Major League Baseball. It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. WHEN, when we'll see full capacity, especially the things, weather starts to warm up in these next couple of months as the summer is about to get going. We saw a couple of months away from that. It got me to thinking over the weekend. Since we're both sports fanatics, for those of you watching and listening, I know you guys are sports fanatics too. We're based in Chicago, and we talked about this before we started recording today, Lakeena, that we at least been to all the sports venues for the professionals at least one time in our lives. And I was fortunate enough to travel to a few stadiums outside the Chicagoland area, Comerica Park in Detroit,
Hmm.
Miller Park in Milwaukee. Great ballpark for those of you who haven't visited, go visit there, especially when things open up a little bit more in terms of capacity. And I went to the Bradley Center in Milwaukee way back in the day. That's the now former home of the Milwaukee Bucks. And so I wanted to ask, I'll start with you, Lakeena. I know this is going to be hard, but college or pro venue, what would be your top 5 venues that you like to visit and attend the game in before we check up out of here?
Oh boy, there's so many, both on the pro and the
No, no, I
college.
know.
It's crazy. I think this is in no order, so I think I want to go to the new SoFi Stadium, the new home for the Rams and the
Hmm.
Rams and the Chargers. That looks like a beautiful stadium. I've seen it from like the
You're gonna have
outs.
fans in there, and that's gonna
Yeah.
be the host of this coming season Super Bowl, and that's gonna be the home for the 2028 Olympics, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is in Los Angeles. So yeah, so it's a beautiful stadium. You can tell by it's nice and covered in the dome, and just as the seating and just the
Hmm.
atmosphere, it looks beautiful. And look, I would love to go watch an NFL game in that stadium.
Hmm.
Um, I would say the Big House in Ann Arbor. I'm gonna go college for a
That's mine.
second.
That's one of my 5. Yep,
That's
the big
look
house in Michigan.
100 and some odd people, of course, now last
Hmm.
year due to COVID. We'll see how it will be. I don't think it'll be that many. I think it'll probably definitely be like about 80 or 90% capacity this year. But look, that looks like a fun time to watch a game. Look, I mean, hopefully Michigan will be good this year. They kind of had so the last few years, but hopefully, they can,
Hmm.
get it together there. Also too, and so I guess so. Bryant Denny Stadium in Auburn, where they play their
Hmm.
football games. Jordan-Hare. I mean that looks like a lot of fun too. Look, just any of those games, those stadiums in the South where they play college football. Tiger
Hmm.
Stadium and all those stadiums. Clemson Stadium. I mean, look, all those look in Miami, the new stadium that they have. I mean, look, those all look
Hmm.
beautiful, and you can pick any of those stadiums out of a hat in the South. You can't really go wrong
Hmm.
with any of them. So I
Yeah.
would either any one of those stadiums would be good. Let's see. You go, Sid, because I got a couple more I got to think about for a second.
Okay. I'll just name mine quickly. The big house in Michigan, of course. I would like to attend a game in Dodger Stadium, baseball team, Dodger Stadium. Let's see what else. Those are 2. Um, let's go with Global Light Park in uh, outside of Dallas, Texas, the new home for the Texas Rangers. I was watching their home opener last week. That looks nice. I'd like to pay a visit to that. I'd like to go to Target Field in Minnesota for
Oh
the
yeah,
twin taking a Twins and Sox game. I know I had a couple of followers on my Twitter that
hmm.
did that have done that in the past, and they told me like you'll like Target Field, so I like to go to Target Field. And let's see, for a hockey game, of course I would like to go to Montreal. Of course I have to get a passport first. I will get
Hmm.
one soon, but I
Hmm.
like to go up there to catch a hockey game there with Toronto. But I would like to go to Madison Square Garden to catch a
Ooh.
Rangers game.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
For me, PNC Park. Everybody says that PNC Park
Yeah.
is one of the most beautiful baseball stadiums you'll ever see. And
Yeah.
on the
Shout
out,
out to Herb Lawrence, 670, the
yeah,
score. He's the producer of the Herb Lawrence show. Hopefully, we can get him on here on this program in the future. But I know he raves about that park a lot.
yeah, that's a nice that's a beautiful stadium. Everybody says how beautiful that stadium is. It's just just absolutely stunning. The LA Coliseum, the new the it's sort of like I wish back in the day that we could have went to those, because just all those they have all types of the Olympics and those
Hmm.
USC UCLA games from back in the day,
Hmm.
back in the 70s and 80s. That would have been really cool. Now, of course, SoFi Stadium is sort of like sort of like the new modern day, I guess,
Hmm.
stadium in that sense. The Suns Arena where the Phoenix Suns play, that looks like a beautiful
Hmm.
that's like a beautiful arena to play, and that I got a chance to look at that. You don't really get to see that more. Also, Cameron Indoor. I mean, just the atmosphere there, and
Hmm.
well, of course, this year with COVID this past year, we couldn't, you didn't
Hmm.
see the atmosphere, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why Duke struggled, because they didn't have that sixth
Hmm.
man there with them. So, look, I'm sure there are many others, but those are kind of like the ones I can think of at the top of my head.
Yeah, I have one more before we get up out of here. The new, it's not new anymore, but no, I think it's now 15 years old this year, if my math is correct. The new Busch Stadium for the St. Louis Cardinals. the baseball team.
Okay.
I like to go to watch a game down there. It looks really nice.
Okay. Yeah, and also
in Fenway Park in
in
Boston.
Fenway Park. Yeah.
I know the White Sox going to be there for this upcoming weekend, so those are my top stadiums. I know we were supposed to give out 5, but I gave out 7. But that's what we do.
Well, and I have to say that I want to go. I have to get a passport first too, but I'd love to go to England and go to one of their go with their stadiums and watch some of their football games. Old Trafford, where Man U plays. Liverpool, where they play. I mean, it's sort of like it's sort of interesting to see how at Anfield, that's where they play, Anfield Arena. Well, they call them arenas over there in in Europe, but
just don't throw anything on the field.
Yeah, exactly. They'll nix you in a minute, but yeah, look, I would love to go to Europe and go to one of those football games, as they say. So it's a lot of fun. And look, I'm sure there are more. And look, these are just the ones at the top of my head.
All right. Let's hope we can get to do some of those things now. Things are starting to open back up slowly.
Yes.
Lakeena, close us out.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, that's CK80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. You can catch the episodes of Second City Sports right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media every Monday and every Friday. Once again, every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube at War Media. But our podcast schedule has not changed. You can still catch the audio version of our show every Tuesday and Saturday. Once again, that's every Tuesday and Saturday on War on Anchor, which gets you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and the iHeartRadio app. On all podcast platforms, type in the search engine box WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com, and you can follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes. For Lakeena, I'm Sid. This has been Second City Sports. Zoom Sal will catch you on our next episode, which will be the weekend edition of Second City Sports. Until next time, Lakeena.
Be good to each other, wash your hands, and if you're going to get vaccinated, keep your distance, wash your hands, and be good to each other with everything going on. Please, look, if you want real change, go out and vote. It all starts at the state local level. That's all I'm just going to leave it at that.
Till next time, holla.